So again, just to start off kind of unofficially, my name is Danny Copinga. I'll be presenting our masterclass today. As a reminder, we do these every Wednesday at the same time. So every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. It's either myself or Juan Lopez. We typically will go week to week and switch off. And I appreciate you guys hopping on. So basically, the idea with this is, and kind of the general, when we started this masterclass course, we wanted to, one, be able to point out specific tools with Annuities Genius. And then two is kind of have best practices on how to utilize those in kind of actual sales experience so you can kind of put them to use. And so I'm going to share my screen and we'll jump into um, our presentation today. And so obviously feel free to ask questions along the way. I want to go through our AI tool. We're probably going to harp on that a lot over the next few weeks just because it's brand new to us. And from like a annuity standpoint, it's brand new to the industry. And so we really want to utilize this as much as possible. If you've had any experience using other AI tools like OpenAI or Grok or Gemini, anything like that, the user interface and the experience is very similar to where it's typed or just typing in the text and then basically processing and asking questions. If you're using like a mobile device or you have the talk to text as well, you can utilize that, which is super convenient. And so we've tried to basically make the user experience very uniform to how other consumer-facing AI tools are used. So there's kind of not a huge learning curve. Basically, kind of when it comes down to it, we're trying to simplify the annuity sales process as much as we can, so that it, one, makes from the agent or advisor standpoint easy to use, and then two, we want to make sure that, when you're presenting, that what you're presenting is crystal clear to the homeowner. I wouldn't say homeowner, but client, so that they get it and it boosts your closing rate up quite a bit as well. And so I'm going to jump in and I'm actually going to go, we'll do a case in just a minute and I'll get we'll go through an actual case. But one thing I wanted to show that I think is really cool on our AI tool is the smart allocation. So I'm going to go in and let's say that I'm going to start from the Navigator tool. If you've had any experience using, I'm going to restart this one. If you've had any experience using Annuities Genius at all, this is one of our more popular features. And so the idea with this is basically, let's say that I'm prepping for a meeting or I'm even meeting with a customer and I want to find a specific annuity with them. And so in this case, there's a little video right here that I can show them that a lot of agents will utilize that basically talks about annuities and kind of builds up the emotional value. But let's say that, we're talking to them and they're looking for accumulation options. And so now I'm going to go through a handful of basic questions to narrow down which product best fits their scenario. So let's say that they're looking for, they want kind of market exposure, but protected market exposure. So we'll go with an FIA. I'll click next step. How much they're looking at. So let's say that they have $150,000 that they're looking at putting into a product. I'll go to next step. Is it a contribution one time or future contributions? We'll say this is just an old IRA that they're going to put into a product. What's the fee tolerance? No fees. So kind of the rhyme behind the reason on why they're going through these questions is basically filtering through what products best fit their scenario. So I'll say, no plan to touch the funds initially. Next step. Want to have access to this after 10 years. So we'll say yes. Index or innovative indexes, kind of the type of index that is going to be invested in. We'll just stick with regular ones like S&P 500. And then what's the company rating? So we'll say stick with kind of the recommended of A- or above. And then it's going to now generate 3 results. So these are 3 products that it's going to show. And I can now kind of go through the breakdown of these. Now where AI pops in. So if you've used Annuity Genius before, you know that we've had this Navigator tool for quite a while. With the AI, what we've added is it's augmented the ability to do an AI analysis. And so I can analyze with GrantAI. So if I click on Start AI Analysis, it'll basically analyze these three options, and then it will give me a breakdown on why it made these recommendations and basically goes through how it got there. It'll also present more details to where, which I think is really cool, is if you were like prepping for a meeting with a client, it's going to basically kind of give you background on why it did this, so that typically the questions that they may or may not have will go through this, and it's very detailed on why they selected these three products. And most of this outline, so if I scroll down, you can see kind of why each annuity stands out. These will probably answer, like, I don't know, 90% of the questions that you'll typically get from the client. And so it's super helpful. So this kind of gives you a breakdown, and you can see it's going to go into, a lot of detail. And what's cool about this is the AI just keeps on getting better and better. And so it's going to basically give me almost like how I want to pitch it. And it basically kind of goes through all this. So you can see kind of the whole detailed breakdown. I'm not going to get too much into that. So that's really cool with the AI, how it's kind of augmented the Navigator tool. Let's say that I go in and, I look at this, let's say this Liberty Bankers product. I'll go to illustrate. I'll wait for that to pull up. So I have kind of our illustrations, how that's built in. And what's really cool is if I go into allocations, one thing that we've added on this is a Smart Allocate. So traditionally, or in the past, I would have to go out and see and kind of get a breakdown of how do I want to allocate this into these different indexes. And now I can basically click on Smart Allocate, and it'll do it. The AI will do it for me. So I'll wait for this. It's going to think about it, evaluate the spreads. You can see kind of what it's doing, going to do back testing, and then it will basically give me a why did it allocate in this breakdown. So basically it's going to give me 5 or 6 different bullet points, so that one, I can feel confident in the recommendation that I'm making to the client, and then two, if they do have questions, this kind of gives you a breakdown. So now you can see if I scroll down, it has 30% in this NASDAQ product, 30% in this S&P 500, 30% in this other NASDAQ, and then, 30, 10, 20. So basically, and then 10 in this fixed account. So super cool as far as when it comes to how we've implemented GrantAI into the different pieces of it. So question is, what I'm showing is agent use only. So it's up to you. I mean, honestly, we've tried to create everything so it can be used for both. I would say in this, typically, I would not necessarily want to look at. I mean, it's kind of up to you on how much of it you show the client, but you can kind of, I guess, both is probably the cleanest answer. Can look at renewal histories. That's something we're still working on, so not quite yet, but it will shortly. So now let's jump back. Any other questions with the smart allocation, or the navigation tool on accumulation? Anything we've covered thus far? Wow. All right, so let's jump back and let's go through a case. So, does anyone have a case that they want to put in the chat that we can throw in for this example? I'll wait for just a second. Another question while we're waiting is, can it generate a report for this client? Yes, it can. All right, let's see what yeah, you can look for premium bonuses. All right, so we have Marcus, 58-year-old woman, 150K rollover for old annuity. All right. I can start with that. It's going to need, so I'll say 50-year-old woman, 150,000, 1x through 0. And then old IRA. Give me just 1 second. All right. Old IRA, and then I'm gonna say Marcus. I'm gonna need a state. Do you want to throw in a state, or I can just make one up real quick? Oh, here we go. Maryland. There you go. Lives in Maryland. Several assets, 2 homes, 200K annual income. Is there, for this case example, is there, are we looking at accumulation? Are we looking at additional income? What do you want to do with this one? Accumulation. All right. So we'll just start like pretty broad. So I'll say 50-year-old woman, 150K old IRA, lives in Maryland. Looking for whoops, if I could spell accumulation options. All right, so we'll start like pretty broad in this case. So I'll go process case. And now I will see what we come up with. So initially, what it's going to do is it's going to put that client in here. So I'll just say this is, I don't know, I'll just make a name, Sarah, Maryland, 58, female. So it basically pre-fills everything so far. I'll go create client. And now it kind of just gives you some recommendations as far as, anything else you want to say, but I'll just say create a report that fits client option, kind of the default that it has in there. And we'll see what we can get. So basically this usually takes a minute or two. And what it's going to do is it's going to basically go through like what it's thinking. And then it's going to basically show how it got there. And so you can understand kind of the rhyme behind the reason. And what's cool is, we'll wait for this to kind of pull up, is it's going to kind of give you a full analysis, and then you can change and ask questions or make adjustments as needed. Because I mean, we started pretty broad in this case. So we'll kind of see what it does, and then we can see where we can go from here. So I'll wait for this. It's thinking, answering. But this is basically something, as we go through it, this is going to be something that you can, again, whether it's with the client or I think this is really cool for like client prep. If you know that scenario, you can plug this in and then have a kind of a breakdown of everything. And this one's super detailed. So it'll go through, it's going to have kind of 3 initial products. It's going to go through presentations. It's going to make the recommendations and then alternative with protections, bonus options, that type of thing. But it'll review everything. So it'll review kind of their situation. And then it'll have their the 3 products that it recommends. So in this case, it's going to give basically a summary. So I have the comparison right here, and then I have why it made these recommendations. And then I basically have the 3 products right here. So in this case, let's say that I went to like report and I clicked on this report. This will now download a PDF that will be, that'll show up. And it'll basically give those 3 options that I just went to. So kind of what we just covered, this is kind of a report. So you could like print this off and just take this to your meeting, and then you have everything kind of what you covered if you wanted to kind of go old paper form. I could go into and say, can you create a email to send to the customer? Let's say that you just buy a ton of old leads on online, and you just want to, basically create, email proposals for old leads that you either have or you're buying or whatever, and you just want to create an email that has all of this. I mean, this might be too much information in one email, but this basically will create kind of an outline in email form that you can then copy and paste and send out, which is pretty neat. So it's going to basically go through everything. So again, I can say, hey, I want to, I didn't tell it to say like my recommendations. I didn't tell it to say next steps, basically have any of this. It gives you kind of a pretty good outline, but I can edit any of this as well. So this kind of stuff I think is super useful because it kind of fills in the gaps. We just started with 50-year-old woman in Maryland that had $100,000 or whatever it was, $150,000, and she's looking for accumulation. And it's kind of narrowed it down to 3 products, and now I have an email that I can send out. So again, very broad, and we can kind of make adjustments as needed. But this kind of gives you an idea of the general functionality, which I think is super cool. So let me just pause right there. It looks like there's a couple questions. Can you calculate annuity ladders? Yeah, you'd have to go through and kind of go through, put them in, but yeah, it can do a lot of that work for you. Let me just go through this Q&A. Can it generate a report? Okay, there's another case recommendation. All right, cool. So, yep, that is true, Tracy. This is a lot that it's going to a lot as far as a lot of content for the customer. In my opinion, I mean, I wouldn't send this much because I mean, it's nice to have options, but typically like if you kind of get analysis paralysis by analysis, where if you give them too much information. And so I would probably simplify this down a little bit and maybe just give them one option. And then if there's something, that pops up with the initial recommendation, you always have backups. And so I could say, again, let's just say, can you create an email with only one recommendation? Let's see how this, I've never actually done this one before, so let's see what it does. If it can narrow it down to one. This is the cool thing about the AI part, is you can kind of mess around with it and see like what it can and can't do. Which is, again, this is awesome when you're prepping for a meeting because it kind of takes a lot of the initial legwork out, but then you can kind of customize it along the way. So yeah, basically this just took that primary recommendation that I had with the security benefit product and kind of goes through the explanation. So this is kind of, again, just going to give that one, what it looks like, the kind of the breakdown. And then again, I could just copy and paste this. And then if I needed to edit it, I could make any edits and do all that. So question, can you filter the AI output to limit and just show the companies you're contracted with? Absolutely, yeah. So you'll actually, that's a good question, Melanie. So when you're setting up your account, if you come up here, it says current products and it has all products. I can go to create new deck. And basically what that does is I can choose which carriers I want to be able to analyze. And so typically, like when you're especially prepping for meetings of clients, you only want to show options that you're contracted with. And so, yeah, you can create what's called a custom deck. So it's going to only show products that or carriers that you're contracted with. I know I have heard of some agents that'll have kind of 2 decks. They'll have one with all products, and then they'll have one with current contracted products. And so maybe, they're, periodically once a month or something like that, they want to see how competitive their contracted carriers are in comparison to what is out there, like let's say with like MIGAs or other guaranteed products potentially, or and so that you'll do kind of a comparison where you'll throw in like the same case and then look at all products compared to your current deck, just to see. But yeah, I would say definitely in preparation for a client, just show your deck that you're contracted with. The customizable report input, example, logos, taglines, address, footers. So yeah, you can put in your own logo on the yeah, this is all going to be customizable. to I would say most of it's customizable. Definitely logos, your contact information, address, like disclaimers, your affiliations, all of that is all customizable. Melanie, another question. If you go over 30, it's not proposal, it's cases. So it's basically like customers. If you do go over kind of what your plan allows, you can buy them in bundles of 5. And so you're not kind of capped out or anything like that. So you're still able to do that. All right, perfect. Good question. So now I have this. So let's say that let's just ask it a question, and let's just, make it pretty basic that, maybe you're presenting to somebody and you're brand new and let's say that this is kind of, most people will probably know this, but let's say that client, is worried about, let's say market risk and losing money. How does this help? So let's just go super basic and see what it has on here. So this is basically going to, so again, it'll repeat kind of in what I just typed in, but a little more official. And then it will show kind of the breakdown of how these work, especially with this, it's going to take this specific product and it'll show kind of a breakdown of everything. So this is actually cool because then it's going to go into like 2008, which most people are going to, look back to the more to kind of some of the big pullbacks, and that's still probably fresh in some people's mind. And so it kind of gives it a breakdown of right here, and it goes through in detail. So you can basically see what it does. The cool thing about I've noticed with this is as I'm messing around with it, it's pretty thorough. So it basically did this, and it did it in an email form as well. And so that's great. Can you compare this to an equity market with 8% annual returns? Yep, you can do that. Scott, we don't send out the recordings. The easiest way that you can access these is on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you just type in Annuities Genius, we put all of these on our YouTube channel, and you can see any past webinar there. Thank you, whoever. Thank you, Deborah. You're on top of it. I was just going to go do that myself, but you did it for me, so I appreciate that. Any other questions with anything else we covered? Anything else on the tool? Let me just go to our Q&A box. So, how have these reports and emails been received by customers? We haven't had any. We've had good feedback. A lot of it is it's not a uniform, the exact same each time. Typically what I've seen, reps do is they'll copy this, paste it, and then they may make edits and stuff like that. But as far as, so we don't hear back like directly from the customer, we'll hear back from the agent. And it seems like they've all had really good feedback. Definitely expedites the process a lot as far as doing things. And makes it easier to, send over the emails and stuff like that, because it basically does it for you. Any other questions that we have for today's? It looks like we don't have enough time to do another case, but yeah, looks like if no more questions, we'll wrap things up. Again, you can find these recordings. Typically, I would say they take a couple days for us to post the recordings on our YouTube channel. If you go to it right now, you'll find all of them so far. We do these live every Wednesday. And so if you have any, okay, last question, Wallace, are you offering Roth conversion class? That's on our radar. There's some things that we wanted to update internally to be able to simplify that on how we show it. And so we will, but I don't know yet when we do the Roth conversion piece. Great. Well, I appreciate everyone hopping on. Again, these happen every Wednesday, and hit up our YouTube channel if you want to see in the past recordings. Thank you for hopping on and have a great afternoon.